Next year's general election, which kicks off with the presidential run on Saturday, February 25th, is 177 days away today. But the current standing of the major presidential candidates and their parties, gleaned from assessments of public opinion, is still too close to call, even though campaigns are yet to officially begin. After the June 9th deadline that's been set by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, for political parties to elect their presidential standard bearers, 8 candidates emerged and are set to be on the ballot next year. Of the 8 candidates on INEC's list, 3 have marked themselves out from the lot, and since then they've dominated the turf, measuring, albeit for now, in networking, crowd pulling and awareness creation. The 3 candidates are PDP's Atiku Abubakar, APC's Bola Tinubu, and Labour Party's Peter Obi. The proper campaign kickoff is still some days away, according to INEC's timetable and schedule of activities. The 3 most prominent candidates have yet to start pitching their debates on the real issues that are affecting the nation today. We begin the news analysis this morning by reviewing the 3 major candidates currently making headlines across the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria. For Atiku Abubakar, the PDP presidential candidate and former vice president, who's been around for some time, as such, the issues of experience, capacity and competence do not arise in his case. But standing in the way of what appears to be his last attempt at the presidency are time and chance. Atiku clinched the PDP ticket at a time that the southern part of the country unanimously believed the presidency should return to them after President Muhammadu Buhari's 8 years. For Bola Tinubu, it's common knowledge that the APC candidate, Bola Tinubu, comes to the race with personality baggage, but that's not what's standing in his way. First, Tinubu must wean himself of the entitlement mentality of Emilokan. It's too narcissistic, some say. The Nigerian presidency is not an exclusive preserve of any individual or group of persons. That assertion is already considered offensive in many quarters. But more importantly, his preference for a Muslim ticket has yet to be well defended. The position that he preferred same-faith tickets on the strength of capacity and competence is even more insensitive to the northern Christians and in particular the Christian community in general. And lastly, for Peter Obi, away from what some may say is the noise of the obedience cascading the political firmament of the country, the reality of the fact is that Obi is not really well known in quantity in many parts of rural Nigeria, apart from a few city centers where the social media savvy Nigerians are able to cause havoc from their keyboards. Now, politics, national politics, does go beyond that and rests solely on structure that's tested over time and can withstand a whirlwind of unintended occurrences. Interestingly, for Obi and a positive turn of events, Nigerians, both home and abroad, had resolved to do crowdfunding for him, proposing to raise about $150 million and 100 billion naira for his campaigns. If this was realized, all that the Labour Party candidate has and his team have to do or need to do properly is coordinate setup structures across the 8,809 wards in the country and also be ready to man the over 119,973 polling units in the country. Now, that was quite a mouthful there, and we have a lot to break down this morning. I guess the real question here, or the first question, is what is each candidate's path to victory? We're taking a look at the 3 frontrunners in this race. That's Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, Atiku Abubakar, and also Peter Obi, and their different paths to victory. Dr. Abati Rufai.
Rufai, you want to go first?
Okay, Dr. Abati, thank you. Their path to victory is quite clear. But you see, one thing is certain about these elections. It brings to memory the elections of '79, where there were big stalwarts. Awolowo, you had Awolowo in that election, you had Nnamdi Azikiwe in that election, you had Shehu Shagari in that election, and you had other stalwarts in that election. And the voting pattern pretty much tilted to the regions. But they made incursions into other regions. Awolowo predominantly won the South and what is known to be Midwest. You also have big wins. Shehu Shagari, parts of the North, made big incursions. But there were outliers in that election, just like Kwankwaso might make a big dent in Kano. Shagari didn't win Kano in 79. Aminu Kano won Kano in 79. And he won it with heavy margins. Will Kwankwaso be able to repeat that feat in this election? Then you had Nnamdi Azikiwe, that won Anambra and some other eastern states with heavy margins. In fact, I think Azikiwe won with over 90%. So pretty much he's set up. But the question is, will he go down to the wire, like when the court had to interpret 2/3? Because most of the key candidates you see in this election will, barring anything, will win their areas. Elections are largely tribal in this country. You can't run away from that. Religious based, and that's why the Muslim ticket is a big factor for Bola Tinubu. Also, they are tribal. That's why a lot of people are arguing that in his quest to want to win the Northwest, it would have been probably a better deal rather than taking a Kanuri man, than to take. It would have been better for him to take a Fulani man, where they can eke out the votes in the Northwest. But also, it's also going to be based on the record of President Muhammadu Buhari, economic problems, insecurity, and those things. People predominantly in the North are upset. Their people are being killed. And it's going to form the bulk of the way they'll vote. I've tried to check historical antecedents in Nigeria polity that has there been any time where there was an economic slump and people rewarded the candidates? Hardly the case. We all remember what happened in 83. The economy was on its way down. Ghana must go had happened. And that was a reason the military gave to take over. We all even remember when you go back to the return to democracy in 1999, the economy was on a strong resurgence point. That's why Obasanjo could win the second term, even under Yar'Adua. So this is the first time that the candidates will be coming in at the time our economy is so down like it is now. But anyway, the difference is that this is not an incumbent candidate. So there's no incumbent candidate on this ballot. Also, age will play another factor. 2023 will make it 30 years. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has been running the race. Vibrantly, a lot of Nigerians want a younger candidate, to be able to mash out things and all of that. Health records, people have talked about that too. But I think for the sake of this analysis, let's break down the states. And I think they did a fabulous job in breaking down the states there. They looked at the degree of win. So when you see in that paper, and if the editors can put it up for us, they say likely. Likely means there's a more certain degree of winning. Possible means a probability of winning. So the states that we indicated likely are states that you will get, big wins. Probably a threshold of over 60%. Possible, there's also a threshold of over 40%. And why we deliberately put this threshold in is because you see that in this threshold, for the candidates, in this threshold, you will see that some candidates have it good in their own area, in their locale. People like Tinubu, obviously, in the Southwest. And some candidates have it good in certain regions. People like Peter Obi in the East, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar in the North. And when you extrapolate the numbers, take for instance, that's why straight off the bat, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, Adamawa is likely for him. He will likely win it. He holds a strong point in Adamawa. Taraba is likely. Bauchi can be either ways. So there's a possibility there. Benue, there's a strong possibility there, but it's not likely. And Benue is deliberate because when you look at Benue, the APC governorship candidate in Benue is quite strong. He's a cleric, Reverend Father. It's quite a strong candidate. And Benue, when you look at it historically, that middle area always goes the way that the eventual winner goes. Plateau too is a possibility because all of that always goes the way they go. When you see states like, Jigawa, there's a likelihood there in states like Kebbi, Delta. Obviously, you know about Delta because Delta is where his running mate is from. Edo, there's a likelihood there because the PDP has very strong forces in that area. Bayelsa, obviously. The PDP has dominated Bayelsa for quite a while. All right? So, but when you also see states that he must win with over 40%, Lagos, possibility, give or take. In fact, Lagos has been said is going to be a three-horse race because the Obi people will vote heavily because of the Igbo population in Lagos. Then Atiku will get some votes, then Tinubu. Ogun, possible if anything happens. Osun, likely, because they just had a big victory in Osun, the PDP. And when you look at it, Oyo too likely. Seyi Makinde will do everything to consolidate. But other states like Kano, Rivers, Kogi, Kwara, Nasarawa, possible. They are just, possible states for him. And when you look at, obviously, you know why we are putting Rivers in the state of possibility there, because all things are not well with Wike. And Wike does have some level of control. All right? FCT has always been the PDP, stronghold. That's Atiku's pathway to it. Tinubu's pathway, I'm sure if we have that on the screen, it shifts from that. Lagos likelihood, Ogun likelihood, Ondo likelihood, and, Borno, obviously, his running mate Shatima is from there. Yobe too, there's a big likelihood. Says he must win by over 40%. Sokoto, there's a big likely. Kebbi, likely. Kwara, yes, likelihood, because most of those states, the incumbent governor of Kwara is APC and the likes. But when you look at it, Kogi likelihood, beg your pardon, if my eyes don't fail me. Kwara possible. It's a possibility in Kwara. Plateau possible. FCT possible, because as we said before, that the PDP holds a strong point in the FCT. All right? And it's always the case there.
Just to bring Doctor in here, Doctor, it's interesting when you look at this, the infographics with Bola Tinubu's possible and likely outcomes, because it's clear that he's not going to get all of the numbers in the Southwest. There's Oyo to look at. I'm trying to see Ekiti. There is likely. You have Oyo to look at. Lagos, like Rufai pointed out, a lot of votes in Lagos are going to go towards the PDP and the Labour Party. Where does Asiwaju Bola Tinubu pick up on his votes if the Southwest isn't necessarily secure for his candidacy or his race? Okay,
I'll come to that shortly, but let me start as follows. First, by commending the editors of this day newspaper for the front page story today, 177 days to 2023 presidential poll. They say it's too close to call. In other words, you cannot at this moment predict that this will be the outright winner. In fact, in their report, there is even an indication that there may be, we may begin to look at the idea of a unity government. And there are persons talking about a unity government, specifically the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, who was saying, he's thinking of a unity government. But the Constitution of Nigeria is very clear on the nature of the presidential election. It's a two-round proposition that you have in the Constitution. The Constitution says the presidential candidate must win 25% of the votes in 24 of the 36 states. In other words, 2/3 of the 36 states that we have. In the event that, and then they must also get majority votes, the majority number of the votes. If that doesn't happen, then the election goes into a second round. So, whoever is talking about the possibility of a unity government must also be within the context of the Constitution and the performance of the candidates. Now, 177 days to the election, we have 18 political parties. Some of the parties have candidates in the race. But in the this day analysis, we're told that, look, this at the end of the day looks like three major runners, a three-horse race. Atiku Abubakar of the PDP, Bola Tinubu of the APC, Peter Obi of the Labour Party, and then on the sidelines, Senator Rabiu Kwankwanso of the New Nigeria Political People's Party, the NNPP. But a clause is put in that analysis, which I agree with, that the major influence of the NNPP presidential candidate is in Kano. And Kano, is a major voting bloc in Nigeria, given the population, given the number of registered voters. And whoever out of these three persons that Rabiu Kwankwanso aligns with could have a significant advantage. And in the course of the analysis, the editors tell us, and I also agree with them, that Kwankwanso, the beautiful bride of the presidential politics in Kano may either support Atiku Abubakar or support Bola Tinubu, and whoever he supports is likely to gain the votes. But as a candidate, on his own, he doesn't seem to have the spread that is required in this regard. Now, the second point about how this is comparable to the 1979 election. In 1979, Nigeria had 19 states. We didn't have 36 states. In 1979, we did not have geopolitical zones. But what emerged from that election, which was eventually contested by the Unity Party of Nigeria, that the parties, had relative strength on the basis of their ethnicity, majorly. The UPN was strongest in the Southwest, where, his presidential candidate, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, came from. The MPN was very strong in the North, particularly among the Fulani voting bloc. That was his strongest base. The MPP, which is the party that was led by Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, was very strong in the East, and people voted heavily for him. The GNPP, the Great Nigeria People's Party, which was led by Waziri, Adamu Waziri at the time, was also very strong in the, in the northeastern zone where he came from. And then, of course, there was the PRP, led by Aminu Kano, which was very strong, in its own political base in the north. And the speculation or the supposition by the This Day editors is that we're likely to see that trend this time around. Okay, so how do we break that down? In looking at the relative strengths and weaknesses of the individual candidates. I've already talked about Kwankwanso being at best, a candidate who will be a beautiful bride in determining how Kano votes, where he's very strong. Let's take Atiku Abubakar. Atiku Abubakar, yes, he has experience. He can claim that he has the capacity. He can also claim that he has the required competence. He belongs to, a party that ruled Nigeria for 16 years, right? Out of those years, Atiku Abubakar was vice president of Nigeria for 8 years. So he's not new to politics. He's been in politics almost forever, since, the preparation for the return to democratic rule. He has tried to be president of Nigeria, multiple times, and each time, he missed it. So now he's 75. So if you can score him high on experience, on understanding the territory, on knowing the territory, on being on a very strong political platform that has already a brand and an identity that Nigerians know, that Nigerians have voted for in the past, fine. But what is his relative strength in terms of, electability? The major obstacle that he faces is this sentiment about zoning. Ahead of the primaries, even within the People's Democratic Party, there was this talk that, look, zoning must, the presidency of Nigeria must come to the south, not to the north. The north, having held power for the last 8 years, with, President Muhammadu Buhari in the saddle. And those who are talking about zoning are saying, no, you have to shift to the south. So the major problem that he has in that regard is that of the need to pacify the south. The need to reassure the south that if he wins, if people vote for him, he's not going to play the politics of northernization. He will not play to the fears of, Southerners, that this will be a Fulanization agenda. In his own case, religion, which is also a major issue in this election, may not be quite a major issue because he has tried to balance the ticket with Patrick Ifeanyi Okowa, the governor of Delta State, who is not just a Southerner, but who is also a Christian. So in that regard, religious sentiments may not play too strongly in his own regard. But let's look at his chances. I see that on the screen there. Yes, if you look at his chances from the analysis that This Day has done, he's given a very strong chance in the Northwest. Now, the Northwest states, with the exception of Zamfara, seems to be the only state that is sure for the APC. In the whole of the Northwest, there is a division among, the political parties in that zone. And that may play to the advantage of the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, particularly in places like Kebbi, in Katsina, where we have seen, very massive defections. And if you see Katsina there, that's why the This Day editors have said likely, they've given him a very strong possibility there. So if you look at it on a zonal basis, since we have 6 geopolitical zones, the PDP may stand a much better chance in the whole of the northwestern zone, except something else happens. Now, if you go to the northeast, in the northeast, that is where it comes from. Okay? Now, in the northeast, you have the vice presidential candidate, the running mate of the APC presidential candidate, Kashim Shettima, coming also from that zone. He is Kanuri. So, automatically, you can almost expect that he will take Borno State. He will take Yobe State. That's the APC, okay? Because they have a Kanuri man on the ticket. But again, if you look at the whole of that northeast, Atiku is also likely to do much better, particularly, in his own native Adamawa and in some of those other states within that zone. And one advantage that the candidate of the APC is likely to have up north is the fact that he is Fulani. So the ethnic sentiment is likely to work in his favor. We are likely to have the Fulanis from, the northwest down to the northeast voting for one of their own. And which is an error that some people say the APC presidential candidate has made. He's taking a Kanuri who may not have that cross appeal on ethnic basis across the northwest and the northeast. Now, still on Atiku Abubakar and his path to success, if Nigerians vote for him. The other thing, of course, is that in the whole of that northwest and the northeast, the Labour Party doesn't stand a chance. So it seems. The NNPP doesn't stand much of a chance. Okay? So I don't think they really, help Labour Party or NNPP will be any threat. But in Kano, yes, NNPP will put up a very strong showing. So if you like, across the Niger, beyond River Niger and River Benue, the Labour Party may not have a very strong chance. The NNPP may not have any strong chance beyond, maybe Kano State. Okay, that's that for, Atiku as a candidate. Now, let's take Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, the presidential candidate of the APC, where his strongest base will seem to be the Southwest, again back to 1979. The people of the Southwest are likely to vote massively for him. Not just because he says Semilokan, but because he's their own. And Yorubas have a popular saying in this case that your child's waist may be deformed, but you won't say because of that you carry a beautiful bracelet and go and put on another person's child's waist. Okay? Well, I don't want to speak Yoruba in order not to alienate people. But the thing is that people tend to relate to their own. But it's not as if Asiwaju Bola Tinubu is going to swoop the Southwest in the same manner in which Awolowo swept the Southwest in 1979. Because here, the PDP also has a very strong base, relatively, in the Southwest. And then the Labour Party, led by Peter Obi, is also, putting up a good showing in the Southwest. But that has to be qualified. Specifically in the urban areas. And among young people who spend half of the time on social media. Now, there is a momentum across the Southwest, particularly in Lagos, that is also likely to work in favor of Peter Obi. So you shouldn't be surprised if you see Peter Obi picking up a lot of votes among young people in the Southwest. particularly in Lagos. So you find that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will have to share the votes 3 ways. PDP, Labour Party in the Southwest, but at the end of the day, he will take the bulk of the votes in the Southwest. I've already said the APC is troubled in the Northwest. That may work against the interests of the candidacy of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The APC in the Southeast and South-South is probably absent there. And that's why perhaps, you see that the APC machinery has not been focusing heavily on the Southeast. But if the PDP continues to have the problem they have with Wike, and the PDP is unable to put his house in order, if Wike, who is speculated to have some influence across the South-South and some states in the Southeast, if he aligns with Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the APC, then of course the APC may be able to make a significant inroad in the Southeast, in some of the states where the alliance with an aggrieved person like Wike could give the APC an advantage. That may amount to anti-party activities, but we understand that they've been talking, and that may even be the strategic reason why the APC is talking to Wike and some other groups. But really, the APC may not do so well in the Southeast and the South-South. The bigger problem that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has is his own personality baggage. The perception about how he has held down Lagos State for so many years, since 1999, since the return to democracy. There are persons who have the fears and who are promoting the fears that if you hand over Nigeria to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and he decides to do what he did in Lagos State, and then Nigeria will just become, will fall into the hands of one man who will ride roughshod over others. So he needs to work on that perception. The other thing has to do with age. And in this regard, he and Atiku Abubakar have the same issue. Atiku Abubakar is 75. He is 70. Some people, in fact, even claim that they attended his naming ceremony and that he's older than 70 years. In politics, you get to hear all kinds of things. But with regard to age, well, the caveat here is that Atiku Abubakar has a much younger person, the governor of Delta State, Okowa. Tinubu also has a younger person, Kashim Shettima. So those who want to vote for them, they just say, well, at least they have very vibrant, young running mates, and that maybe age may not just be an issue. After all, the job of the president is just to provide leadership. But definitely, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we need to work on this personality baggage, this idea that he feels entitled. In a country of 200 million people, one man will just stand up and say, it is my turn. So, if you vote for him, you are more or less endorsing that position that it is his turn. The other issue with the candidacy of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the Muslim ticket. Well, we're told that that was strategic, but the way the Christian establishment in Nigeria has risen against that, the way the northern Christian establishment has risen against that, all of that could be an issue. The other third major challenge that this candidate faces is also the fact that the party is divided. There is division within the APC, just as there is division in the PDP. But there are probably more aggrieved persons in the APC. All those members of the National Assembly on the platform of the APC who lost their ticket, they are aggrieved. So, one of the things Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will also have to do will be to unify the party. But the biggest issue that he has is the performance of the Buhari administration. Yes. Because if Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu appears or emerges as the next president of Nigeria, that will have been an APC to APC transition. And there are persons who are convinced that, look, the 2023 election should be a referendum on the performance of the APC government in the last 8 years. So it will be a question also of Nigerian people asking themselves, As the APC government performed well, as it delivered on the issues of security, the economy, the war against corruption, there are some people who will answer in the negative. In Katsina State, why are people in the president in the home of the incumbent president moving away from the APC and moving in droves into the opposition party, into the PDP? Part of the concern is the reign of banditry in that part of the country. And there are many other persons in the north who are aggrieved. Take the Middle Belt, for example, which is also likely to be a deciding factor. Insecurity across the Middle Belt. In Benue State, yes, the Catholic priest, who is a candidate of the APC, is very popular, but when it is election time, other factors may come into play. Now, let me move quickly to Peter Obi. Yes, Peter Obi of the Labour Party has emerged as a very strong contender, and that's why, you know, the This Day editors today are talking of a possible 3-horse race. Peter Obi is so popular that, as I said earlier, is likely to get a lot of votes from, you know, young people, even in the Southwest. Their parents, the parents of these young people in the Southwest may vote APC or PDP, but their children may end up voting for Peter Obi because he's become the hero of the alternative movement, the change that people are talking about. But even abroad, we were discussing yesterday how, you know, young people abroad are trying to do crowdfunding, raise up to about $150 million for the Peter Obi campaign. So he has that support. But does he have the structures on the ground? No, he does not. Okay? Is he popular across River Niger and River Benue? No, he's not. Does he have major presence in the Northwest and in the Northeast? No, he does not. Okay? But on the ballot, yes, among young people, it's likely, as I have said, in the Southwest, you know, to put up a very strong showing. In his own case, well, if he gets that $150 million that will come from crowdfunding that he has been promised, he will need within the very short time available, you know, to build the structures as quickly as possible. But in terms of his advantage, again back to 1979, he's likely to get majority of the votes from the Southeast. And this will be not just about ethnic sentiments. I imagine that this will also be about identity.
Yes.
The Igbos and those who study the place of the Igbo in Nigerian politics insist that the Civil War, theoretically, we're told, ended in 1971, but the Civil War has not ended. The Igbo man continues to be marginalized in terms of politics, you know, discriminated against, as a result of the fallout of the Civil War. There are parts of the country where the Igbo man has not been forgiven. And there are persons in this country who have lent their voice. They may not have the votes to the fact that, look, for equity, for fairness, for justice, Igbos must also be allowed, you know, a shot at the highest office in the land. So I imagine that in the Southeast, don't mind the fact that some of the governors are boasting that they will deliver their states to their own party. But the truth of the matter is, when it comes to the presidential election, the question of identity and ethnicity is likely to play very strong. And you are likely to have, you know, Peter Obi putting up his best showing among his own people in the Southeast. The average Igbo man may say, well, you may not, Peter Obi may not emerge as president, but I would rather vote for my kinsman than give it to a Yoruba man or give it to a Fulani man. I imagine that that kind of statement will emerge at the end of the day. But in city centers, among the hyperactive social media team of obedience, there can be no doubt that Peter Obi will do very well in that regard. He may not get the 25% required in 24 states, but he will do well. According to the This Day analysis, the swing states, of course, will be the North Central and also the Middle Belt. In the South-South is traditionally PDP, so the South-South is likely to vote Major League PDP. So if you look at it, at the end of the day, it looks like 2023 will be a two-horse race between the PDP and the APC. However, all of these permutations may well change. It's still 177 days to the election. The campaigns will officially start on September 28. So other factors will come into play. One factor that will come into play, unfortunately, is money. Presidential elections are not cheap. You need to have a war chest. You must have plenty of money. So who has the money? Is it Atiku Abubakar and Senator Ifeanyi Okowa? Can they match Bola Tinubu and Shetima, with the war chest? Who has more money between the two? Will the APC be helped by the factor of incumbency? Because that's another thing to put into the permutations. If there is the power of incumbency, that will mean the Buhari administration standing fully behind the candidacy of Asiwaju Bola Tinubu and deploying ways and means to make that presidency possible. But even if the incumbent administration deploys ways and means, would that not be a prescription for conflict? Because what is important is that the will of the people, the choice of the people must prevail. So far, the president has said, oh, he will support his own party, but at the same time, he will say, oh, I don't want anybody to hijack the process. For President Muhammadu Buhari, the 2023 election must be a legacy project, because it will be one of those things for which he will be remembered. Will he be able to deliver credible elections on top of all the major challenges that his administration has faced? So the bottom line is that the people should be allowed to make their choice. Finally, the role of INEC is important in this regard. We have been told that the BVAS, the biomodal verification system that was deployed in recent elections in Osun and elsewhere, and Ekiti, will also be used. Will INEC have the capacity to ensure transparency? All of these are other enabling factors that, the analysts will have to consider as we go ahead. But the residual point is that Nigerians want free and fair elections that will move this country forward. And we hope that when the campaigns begin on September 28th, that these candidates, will also deploy all the resources at their disposal. And if anything is going to change, if there will be other permutations, it will be our duty to focus on those permutations and analyze them accordingly.
Thanks, Dr. Abati. Very well analyzed. Rufai, I was just about to come back to you with this, because it comes back to the point of these elections are going to come down to the North Central, the Middle Belt, and the Northwest. I mean, what does each candidate then have to do to win over those geopolitical zones?
I think the first thing each candidate has to do is to settle the internal wranglers. But lots of these political parties are split down the middle. These elections will be incumbent how PDP can settle its Wike problem. How the APC too can settle most of the states in the Northwest that are disgruntled as a result of the fact that the presidential candidate Bola Tinubu picked a Kanuri man rather than a Fulani man as running mate. So the quickly they are able to put people on their side, and also they talk about Muslim ticket too. That will also be a pivotal point. How APC can reassure and make better arguments, because like these days just said, they've not made good arguments, or how they can reassure people that it's not going to be a whole Muslim affair. So how they can quickly settle things out. And for the Labour Party, how they can quickly get those structures in place, get those funding in place to be able to help out. And now INEC will play a major role in being that very, very unbiased umpire in all of this. And most importantly, the security agencies, because we don't talk about them a lot, but they matter so much in politics. All right? How the security agents can be neutral in all of this will form the way it will tilt. Let the games begin.